Hello and welcome to Business Owners Unite, the podcast where we explore the challenges, successes, and lessons learned from those who have navigated the exciting yet complex world of business ownership. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, this podcast is for you to help, inspire, and guide you on your business journey. So let's get started and unite the world of business owners, one story at a time.
Welcome, everyone, to the Business Owners Unite podcast. My name is Kyle, and I'm your host. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Janine Vasper, who is an amazing public speaker, sales coach extraordinaire, has done pretty much everything across the board when it comes to speaking and telling your story. And I'm really excited because I know that there's a lot of business owners out there who probably struggle in telling their story, maybe struggle with public speaking, but they see the value in that and they want to get in front of audiences as well. So with all that said, I'd love for you to maybe introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are and just give us a little backstory of your business.
Thank you very much, Kyle. So my background, I have been working for quite a long time and I've had a whole lot of different roles, from checkout chick, aerobic instructor to general manager of sales for a multi-million-dollar business.
Wow.
And in my own business as well. What I've learned along the way is there's certain things that help you stand out. And one of them is if you're able to tell your story and how well you tell it. And is there's a relevance in telling the story to the audience. I've been part of a not-for-profit public speaking organization called Power Talk for 20 years. And I had the opportunity in 2013. I won the Australian Speaking Championships, a speech contest, and then represented Australia in beautiful Hawaii.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. I made it through to some semis, but then, different judges, American judges.
Yeah, those Americans.
Australians are more subtle in our delivery style. It's usually the quality of the speeches as opposed to the more outgoing, gregarious type of personality.
Yeah.
But then again, it's all, and this is part of the thing when you are speaking, it's got to be about you. It's got to be authentic and it's got to be you.
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we were talking about this just before the show, that authenticity is something that is very hard to fake, and people gravitate towards that. If they think that you seem like an unfiltered person, there's an honesty and a trust that comes with that, I think. So yeah, it's a hard thing to communicate, though, I think. So as a public speaker extraordinaire, how would you say that people can kind of get into that zone of authenticity? Is there any secret that you can unlock?
That's really interesting. I knew you were going to go there with the question. Started that monologue there. Trying not to be someone else. That is a really big deal. There's only one of you, and but you need to create the best version of you. If you are interested in gaining, more recognition, better branding, more sales as a speaker, you need to get good at it.
Yeah.
You need to understand all of the different skill qualities, whether it's your voice or gestures, how you use the stage, all of those types of things, which all can be learned. The authenticity part, though, it needs to be you that's on the stage, the best version of you. I find the people, and we were talking about this, how you resonate or how you're drawn to people who are more authentic. And it's not necessarily people are open because they talk a lot. It's more that they're open with themselves. I think the people who are more authentic tend to have more confidence and belief in themselves, and they are quite comfortable in people knowing the real them as opposed to the front that they put on. And in the roles that I've had over my career, if I turned up into the buyers for BHP, then I will be doing and speaking differently and addressing things differently than I would if I walked onto the construction site with the blokes. It's a different space, but it's still me. And it's, so if I'm not comfortable swearing, I'm not going to turn up on the construction site and start doing that to try and fit in. We don't want to do that. We don't want to fake it. We want to be real.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of being, I guess, in touch with who you are in a way, and being able to kind of be vulnerable, I guess, in kind of opening up to sharing that with other people, and also knowing context, I guess, as well is important from what I gather.
Oh, definitely knowing context. I've heard speakers who've spoken on subjects that they've obviously researched
Yeah,
and then spoken on, and it's not something that one seemed to resonate with them. It was more they were a teacher and
gotcha.
and held a subject and taught it. And again, that's not really that authentic as opposed to coming from a space where I know this, I know
Yeah,
this information, and this is what I'll teach. Or if you are
interesting.
teaching something different, being open and vulnerable and aware that someone says that's not correct, or how would you look at this differently, not to, as we'd say, arc up, but to recognize that you need to open up and be aware and listen to somebody else offering advice. I think that's a really good point as
Mm,
well. As
that's
part of
been
that makes you vulnerable when you can say, "Yeah, I think I might have got that wrong," or, "I need to know more
Yeah,
information."
true. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people who put on the bravado of like, I know everything. And there's a disingenuous side of that, isn't there? You can kind of sense it when you see somebody talking about something, and you're like, I don't know if you actually do know what you're talking about. Admitting that you don't know that you know what you're talking about is actually, I think, quite a brave move. And it's a very vulnerable one as well. And I think
Mm.
that leads back to like the authenticity, right? It's like, look, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm happy to look into this further and get back to you, or whatever it is. Like, oh wow, that took a bit of courage to actually admit when you don't know something.
One of my biggest tricks is that if I don't know something, or if I'm presenting and I've just forgotten where I'm going to go with next topic or question, I'll go back to the audience or
Yeah,
the group if I'm doing workshop, and I put everything back on them.
yeah,
So how would you deal with this if this situation occurred? Or what are you thinking would be a great idea if we're talking about how you might use your voice more effectively?
very good.
And I'll get them to give me the information. They remember it a lot more because they've had to think about it and contribute. And then you get a lot wider scope of ideas because you're getting more people contributing. And it gives you time to remember what you're going to talk about and address that as well.
That's a really clever hack, Janine. I love that. This is really exciting. Like, I love being able to talk to somebody who has been in this for, lives and breathes all the tips and tricks of public speaking. How did you get into it in the first place? What inspired you to start doing what it is that you do?
Uh, quite quite a long time ago, I've always wanted to get into speaking and believe that my first business was called Shifting Visions. I just wanted I I wanted people to feel that level of confidence within themselves, and that's what I wanted to speak about.
That's powerful. Yeah.
It was, but what happened that really triggered this in particular. One of my dearest friends, her mother passed away. And her father had passed away a couple of months beforehand, and he'd been
Well, wow.
unwell, and it was expected. They were they they were members of this beautiful little Lutheran church. It was one of those ones with the A-frame and the pews, and big gorgeous little church. And and I'll call her auntie. She had always helped out at the church, knew the pastor well, had been there 40 years, and they gave her an amazing service for uncle. When Auntie passed, it was unexpected. The pastor had moved away. There was a brand new pastor there, and all of the family were too distraught to be able to honor this amazing woman.
Hmm.
And I was sitting in the pews with my parents, who they were our neighbors. They were as distraught as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I thought, I want to say these words.
Yeah.
I want to have that confidence in that to be able to get up and talk about this woman. And I didn't. And
Wow.
I said to myself, I'm never going to be mute again. If anyone that knows me would never have thought I would be mute anyway. But in that situation, just to have that strength and
Yeah.
confidence and belief that you can do something that will, in this case, honored someone dear. And I
Yes.
just went,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen again. And it
Yeah.
hasn't
Wow.
ever happened again. I'll be the I won't be the first one that'll always put my hand up because I want other people to have the opportunity to do it. But I'll make sure that if someone else can't, then I will.
Wow, that's such a powerful story, Janine. I think that we could probably all relate to those moments in life where we might have wished that we had taken action, and I think that
Mhm.
funerals or being able to honor someone's life and say those words and not only just say words, but put it in a way that really does them proud and the family proud. I think that's a very scary situation for a lot of people because I think at the very core of being human is that we are so scared of public humiliation. We are so scared of making a fool of ourselves, getting in front of a crowd and saying something that people, laugh at you or go, "What an idiot! I can't believe that he or she got up there and tried to say something." Like that is a terrifying thought for so many people. And I think that the fact that I don't know if that those were kind of the feelings that you were having, but anyone could probably relate to that feeling of like I know that I want to say something, but it's just such a, you almost freeze in those moments. It's
And that
it's
definitely,
terrifying.
yeah, and that definitely can be part of it. The other part that can be is, who am I to do this?
Yeah, wow. So that imposter syndrome type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
wow.
it's, who are you not to do it?
Yeah.
I know many years after that, but many years ago still, I spoke at a friend's funeral who chose to take their own life, which is a really difficult space
Yeah.
to be at. And I was one of the speakers. And again, I just, as they said, does anyone want to say anything? I said, yes, I do, because the people, and again, I waited to see who added these comments, that added these feelings that I wanted shared as a friend. And the amount of people that came up afterwards and said to me, you said what I was thinking. You were my voice on the day. And
Wow.
if I can do that for someone else who can't do it, well, then it's an honor.
That's incredible, Janine. Yeah. And to have gone from your best friend's mother's funeral to that
Mm,
experience, I think is such
mm,
a huge progress. Like how did you
mm.
go from, not being able to get up and say the things you wanted to say to then being able to be the voice that everyone wanted to kind of say? Like, how did you find the courage? What was your journey, I guess?
I think the first thing is that line in the sand. This is not going to happen again.
Yeah.
I think that's such an
So it's like
important fact.
seeing a change that you wanted to make.
And
The,
that's like anything in life. If
mm,
it's, am I going to stick on this diet? And I teach sales. Again, it's that line in the sand. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm missing out on all these opportunities. I've got to get a coach, or
mm,
what it, there's different points where I'm wasting so much time and you might get a VA or someone to help with social media, that you're doing things that you're just wasting time. And there's a line, you draw a line in the sand going, or I need the skills. I
yeah.
need to upskill. And that was part of it. I needed to, one thing's wanting to be able to speak. The other point is being able to speak and to
Yes.
learn how to do it well. Again, being true to me as a, authentic within myself, but knowing how to remove removing ums, ahs, other filler words out of
Yeah.
your delivery is such an important factor. We don't notice them until we notice them. And I
Yes.
apologize to every single person I've ever worked with and trained as a speaker. They now can hear them everywhere. But it's part of
Yes.
it's an important part to acknowledge, because people lose track of what you're saying if you've got
Mhm.
too many filler words. Knowing how to, and just practicing. Now, I've worked with people
Absolutely.
that haven't had the confidence even just to stand up, introduce themselves, to a few months later giving 45-minute presentations,
Wow.
because they've practiced it and not practiced to get it perfect, not practiced to remember the words,
Yeah.
practiced how it feels to stand up in front of an audience.
Mm,
And that becomes part of I don't believe in the fake it till you make it. I believe in the feel it till you make it. You
I love
continue
that.
to take those small steps and small steps. Hence why I'm still part of Power Talk, because I'm actually in three clubs: a cyber club, one on the Gold Coast and one on Brisbane South, because well, I've made friends, so that's an important part. But I love the mentoring process and seeing people come in who have that, lack of confidence, lack of self-belief, and the change that comes from them and what they're able to achieve. It's amazing.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, it sounds super interesting. So is it the Power Club? Is that what it's called? Sorry?
It's called Power Talk. It used to
Power Talk,
be,
sorry.
yeah, it used to be Toast Mistress clubs.
Oh,
I think
cool.
probably
Yeah.
anyone listening to this would have heard of Toastmaster.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, so it's in the US in the 1930s, the women would go along and wait for their men to finish their Toastmaster clubs. They'd be
Really?
sitting there with
Wow.
their
What a
handbags and their
world, huh?
gloves on. They would. And then someone suggested that why don't they start a Toast Mistress clubs instead? Many changes over the years, as Toastmasters has also, including the opposite sex, and
You would
now
hope
Power
so.
Talk.
Yeah.
Yes, Power
Yeah.
Talk Australia is what it's evolved to, and it's I
Fantastic.
love, again, the friendships, but it's also that for me it's the mentoring and seeing people grow.
Yes. Yeah.
What I do that a lot of speakers don't do is I get feedback.
Okay.
When I present, I get feedback from other speakers, and that's an important factor because a lot of the time people will be continuous speakers but never get feedback on how they've gone.
Sure. Yeah.
But feedback from peers as opposed to feedback from um, critics or audience. And
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
something I really want to recommend to anyone. If you're receiving feedback, I I like to work on feed forward, which is a different space. But if you're receiving feedback from anyone, make sure it's from someone who has more skill than you do.
Good point of feedback. That's a really good bit of advice, I think. Like make sure that the feedback that you're listening to are people who are better at that than you, because there's so many people who are willing to give criticism when really it's like, well, what are your credentials, man? What have you actually done?
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
So true. Well, that's fantastic. So Power Talk is like a really good way to kind of hone your craft in a way, because I know that there's this saying, I don't know who it's attributed to, but the pen is mightier than the sword. And all the pen is expressing yourself, your words, right? So being able to be a good public speaker, being able to be a good speaker, a good storyteller it's such a valuable tool in your arsenal, I think. That if you can practice and you can teach yourself, and obviously having a mentor is such a fantastic way to do that, because you're going to learn
Yeah.
so much faster if you have somebody who's there helping you in that journey. If you're playing sports, you get a coach, right? You don't just go, oh, I'll just learn it. I've never played soccer before, I'll pick it up. You do need those coaches to give you that feedback, give you that guidance. So it's really cool. How did you get into your own business though? Because I imagine that obviously stepping out on your own, like any business owner, it is quite challenging. If you're the world's best speaker, still starting a business can be tough.
Oh, most definitely. I love that you brought up about the coach though. I
Yep.
play golf, and
Oh,
when I
nice.
first started, I went and took lessons. And it was ladies' clinics, and went and took lessons and lessons and lessons. And for anyone that's ever played golf, know that it's the hardest sport out there because nothing's ever consistent. The beauty of it though is I know how to correct it. If
Nice.
I'm doing something, I go, what am I doing wrong? And I go, right. And that's the point of getting good training, that you can embed something becomes rote within how you do it. Starting
Totally.
my own business, I was working full time as a GM of sales for a multi-million dollar company. And
Wow.
I wanted to, I've always been a planner.
Hmm.
So I plan each section of my life to create the life that I'm living now and how I want to live it. And I'm so blessed to be able to fit in work and spend a lot of time with family, but also do a lot of travel in amongst it.
Amazing.
That doesn't turn up, you create it. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
it's how it's done. When I wanted to do that, I figured I can't do that if I continue working for someone else, even though I was getting paid very well to do that. I needed to create my business to the flexibility,
Sure.
which meant I started and this is something I encourage people to do. When you have a job, you invest the earnings for that to create your business. You invest in your website, your any extra coaching or skills that you need. You invest it when you've got a regular income, and when you're ready to step into business, a lot of those expenses, you've got the skills to be able to move it forward a lot quicker.
Great advice.
And then I went to a 5-day fortnight in my same role for 4 years.
Okay.
And through that, I was really able to get out and do a lot more networking and meet people and make the right sort of contacts. And I'm very much a believer that you listen to what the universe has to tell you. And I'm not sure, we had a discussion before this. It was about the feather, the brick, and the truck. Did we have that
No,
discussion?
we
No?
haven't. You're gonna have to share.
Yeah, when sometimes we can get hit by a feather and we'll go, oh, I need to pay attention to that. Sometimes we're not paying attention. We've had multiple feathers, so the universe will send us a brick.
Mm.
And if we're really not paying attention, they'll send a truck.
Yeah, not good.
And we want to pay attention to the feathers.
Sure.
While I was doing a 5-day fortnight, I had a new operations manager come in to the business. Very, very different ideas on how to treat people, how to deal with customer service. And after a few months, I just went, I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And left, retired from that in the middle of 2018.
Wow.
I had planned to do that 2019. I have to tell you, then I planned for a 3-month holiday in Europe for the next year. Did all the bookings myself and through Airbnbs and stayed at castles and towers and cruise, Iceland. Like, it was amazing. It was fantastic.
It sounds pretty good.
It was fairly good. It was 14 countries, but over the 3 months.
Very
We
nice.
went on that tour because I'd stopped the job in 18. We went on that trip in 19.
Oh, wow.
If I had not listened to the feathers, what ended up as a brick or a truck meant that if I had left in 19, we would not have got that trip in 20 and would have lost whatever things.
Wow. That's very fortunate, Janine. That's a good timing if I've ever heard it.
It was very, very good, very good timing. But it's part of that. I did not want to go to that job anymore, which I had not had that in 20 years.
That's amazing. I think it's so, I think if you are a planner, doing that transition from full-time work through to working for yourself, if you can plan that out and you are able to make that a smooth transition, that is I think one of the smartest ways you can do it. I love that you pointed out there are expenses in your business that you're going to need to invest in, that you want to get going before you're in it 100%, because those things can be costly. That said, though, if you're able to prepay it before you jump in, then you're just needing to just do the job. Hopefully, you're not having to focus on all the capital outlay at the very beginning. That's really great.
The right coaches beforehand.
Yes.
And that's the thing with coaches as well. You often, as you progress, you need to level up with your coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I actually was very fortunate. Before I started my business, I had a fantastic mentor in the organization I worked in, who was the HR director for the company. And we had a mentoring program, and I was just very fortunate enough to work with her. Her name was Melinda Turnbridge. She's a fantastic high-level executive in Sydney, and I've got so much time and respect for this woman. And she was very much like, when we'd have our sessions, I was like, I like working here, but at the same time, I've got these ideas for starting my own business. I've always been very entrepreneurial. I want to jump into this, but I'm a bit scared. And she was like, "What are you scared of? You can do this. Let's plan it out together." And she really helped me in kind of like launching the business. And I actually had 3 businesses that I launched at the same time, but I ended up taking a gap year, going and living in Southeast Asia, and launched these 3 businesses. And she was a huge reason why I did it, because I think I would have probably sat on the fence for another couple of years. Do you know what I mean? If I hadn't had somebody who was like, "Nope, you're off the fence, buddy. You got to, give this a go." So I couldn't, agree more that having a mentor, having a coach is going to make your life so much better, because you don't know what you don't know. as well as you're going to have blind spots, you're going to have doubts, you're going to have insecurities. Having somebody who can be there as a mentor, as somebody who can be a sounding board, as somebody who might have been through it before themselves, they're going to be a voice of reason, and oftentimes, what would you call it? Somebody who can be in your ear to give you good counsel when you really need it. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, it is incredibly important. And I love that you had somebody that encouraged you to launch. For me, it was that catalyst. But this is for the people moving into their own business, as you said, that entrepreneurial mindset. You'll know it's there.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily wait until you get hit by a truck. It's
Yeah.
that you know it's there if you can,
Mm,
and you listen to the mentor. That was your choice to do that.
yeah.
There's all these things that will come to us. That I remember there's a thing that this guy was marooned on this island, and he was very faithful, and he prayed, and this dinghy came past, and he said, do you want to jump in? He said, no, God's organized something. It's good. And the boats get bigger and bigger, and eventually he didn't jump on any of them, and went to heaven. And God, he said, God, you let me down, He said, well, I sent you a dinghy, I sent you this, it's I'm not telling that one well, but it's that like, you get the idea. Is
Yeah,
there's things that will come into our lives, and sometimes we don't pay attention to them. I had this
absolutely.
instant, somebody reached out for a LinkedIn trainer, and I help people set up their LinkedIn profile. And I had 4 people. It was a Facebook one. Can anyone suggest? I had 4 people that recommended me. I then contacted her, went through details, and I just said, this is what we need to do in the training. And she said, I've done all that. I've got all that set up. And then I went and checked her profile, and I went, no, you haven't. And she wanted to be able to, make more connections, generate. You haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's her space of learning at the moment, that she
Yeah.
wasn't, even though she thought she was ready, she obviously wasn't ready to hear
Yes.
that.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I'm a big
Mhm.
believer in that. Through my journey in life, I feel like the universe will push you in the direction you need to go. And I love the feather, the brick, and the truck analogy, because that's great. Sometimes I've had situations in my life where I feel that intuition, I trust that intuition, I go with that intuition, and it's worked out great. Other times I've felt the feather a few times. I've gotten the bricks and I'm still ignoring it. And then all of a sudden, the universe will just kick my butt and, push me where I needed to go. But looking
Mhm.
back, you go, that needed to happen, because now I'm on the path that I'm on, and I'm so grateful to be where I'm at now. So it is strange that, if we don't listen to those signs or signals, that sometimes you get a rude awakening. But
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, but
crazy.
yeah, most definitely. And I that feather brick and truck, I have to admit, that's not mine. I I interviewed, and I can't think of the woman's name I interviewed on my podcast, and she mentioned it, and I said, look, I'm going to steal that, and I've been
Yeah.
using that ever since. And I had something very similar, but that's so
It
visual.
is. Yeah,
Or
exactly. Yeah. And it's going to say, like, I think just through our
well,
conversation, I love the amount of stories that you're telling, because it really brings you along on that. Like, I can literally see you sitting at the funeral before, and I was like, man, that's, I felt emotions in that, moment. I was like, oof, that really hits home. So I think storytelling is another thing that's really important. I know in today's world, I deal a lot with clients, helping them with video content. That's a really big focus for businesses nowadays. But the hardest part, I think, is having a message. Like the medium doesn't matter as much anymore, because people get millions of views sitting in their car, talking to their phone. It's not really about having the production quality. It's really about the content. So, maybe you can walk us through, how do business owners tell better stories? How do they connect with their audience to be able to keep people engaged? I feel like you've just kept me engaged this whole time. So I just need to ask your expert opinion.
thank you. There's stories out there all the time. Now, I've
Yeah.
worked with clients that have had major stories in their lives,
Yeah.
something that's really significant. A lot of people think, well, I haven't had anything like that happen, so I don't have a story to tell. But
Hmm.
everyone has a story to tell. what to start doing things. And this is what I started doing 30 years ago. I started collecting stories and putting them in a spreadsheet.
Oh, wow.
Remember that story that I had with this, and I'd pop it, and that would be a story that I'd tell when I was training speaking, or that would be a story I'd tell when I was training sales,
Mm,
and it prompted memory. I don't do that anymore. I don't need that.
yeah.
It's a great way to start, though, thinking
Okay.
about, because you'll think, oh, I had this happened with this client, and that worked really well, and oh, I can tell a story. But I can tell a
Nice. Yeah.
story out of anything now. I let me think. Okay, so this morning I was running LinkedIn training with a few people, and we were doing it online with Create as We Go. It's a workshop. And what I really realized while I was working with them is that when they could grab a little bit of information, even though they wanted to go a particular way, the more that we reviewed it and the more we looked out at it from different angles, they started to see it in a different space. It happens in life, doesn't it? In a lot of things in business,
Mm.
we think we're looking one way, but then when we look at things a different way, it opens up to us. See, there's a story.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's
You
so,
can
so
they're out there everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing that I've been trying to do with clients more is because everyone wants those video testimonials. And I go, well, what's stopping you telling the story? Why don't you tell us a story about a client that you worked with or a case study that, here's what I did. This was the situation. Here were I guess, the tasks that we went through. Here were the actions. And then here were the results. Like, just do it yourself.
Mm,
Telling those stories, though, rather than being like, hey, I'm a great digital marketer, or I get good results for people. It's like so vague and so boring. But if you're like, hey, I started working with this client about 3 months ago. They really wanted to maximize Christmas sales. They sell an advent calendar that's all about sharing kindness. And we were able to rent them up to $1.4 million in sales over a period of 6 months. Like that's a story. You're able to actually kind of go, oh, wow, like an advent calendar or whatever it is, like you have to bring people along on that journey and talk about something that puts a picture in people's mind, paints kind of an image. And I love that about what you teach people as well, especially from the sales angle. I'm interested to explore that a bit more. How do you help people with the sales side? Because every business owner wants more sales. I haven't met a single business owner that's like, you know what, I'm good. So how do you help
yeah.
people in kind of crafting stories that help sell to their target market?
Part of what you just said. One of the things and it annoys my clients that know me is I'll keep going. They'll tell me something, and I'll go, well, so what does that look like? And
Mm,
well, it looks like it's, somebody's hasn't got any stress anymore. Well, I go, well, what does that look like? And they haven't got any stress. Well, it means that they're not in pain. But if they're not in pain, what does that look like? Or I go in, yeah, so what? So what? So
yeah,
what? And it keeps breaking it down to a level of, when, what, like, and you could tell the testimonial. When I worked with clients, often one of the things they're telling me is that they've got neck pain or shoulder pain, and they're sitting at the desk, everything keeps aching. What
yeah,
they don't realize, it's not the bad posture, it's the stress of the job. So then you tell it as a story in
nice.
that way. But you break it down to figure out what is the problem, what is the real underlying problem. Now, people
Love
don't go
that.
to the gym to get fit, really.
Yeah.
That's a byproduct. They don't get to go to the gym to get buff. That's a byproduct. They go to the gym because because deep down, when someone walks up to them and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how buff you look. Really? You ran 10 kilometers?
Yep.
Awesome."
Yep.
That's why you go to the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're
There's
so right.
a reason, but that's a good one.
That's definitely the reason I go, Janine. I'm going to be honest. No, I love that. I think because I've worked in marketing for so long, and sales and marketing go hand in hand, aren't they? They're almost kissing cousins in a way.
Marketing and sales, yeah.
Marketing and sales, correct? Yeah. Did I get that wrong? Yeah.
Oh, everyone says sales and marketing because it flows, but
That's
as
true.
we
That's
know,
true.
it's
Yeah,
marketing first, and then
that's
let's
true.
get
That's
people.
true.
You get them
Yeah.
to the door, and I'll help you get them through the door.
Very true. I think a lot of my clients, or at least I can spot when a client thinks that your marketing should sell. And I'm like, look, you still need to have sales. Like you're going to get leads, but it's not the marketer's job to then sell those leads, your services. You can't have an ad that does that for you. Like you can have the best ad campaign in the world, but you're still going to have somebody who sells it. So definitely agree with you on that. Marketing and sales. So the whole thing I was going to talk about was like, you really do need to find what are your customers' problems and speak to that rather than, hey, I've got a great service. I've got a great product. It's, X, Y, Z. It's the fanciest new model on the block. It's like, nobody cares. At the end of the day, they have their own problems and things that they're going through in their life. And if you can speak to those, if you can identify those, and then you can kind of align your service and product and help solve those problems, man, that is going to help bring people through the door like nothing else. And I imagine that a lot of your clients are the same. I know that you work with real estate agents and people who are very service based in terms of talking to people day in and day out. So I imagine that it's just understanding those problems, being able to kind of add value, right? You're not selling, you're helping people. You're able to kind of go, look, I see you have this problem. If I could do this for you, how would that make you feel? Would that help with that problem? If you can communicate like that, man, it just changes the game, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I say this often. I've been in sales for 40 years, but I've never sold anything to anybody.
Nice.
I make it really. I solve problems, and people buy from me.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that. And if you look at it like that, then you won't mind following up. You won't mind doing cold calls. You won't mind making the phone calls. You won't mind any of that because you're solving problems.
Yeah.
You're not selling. And that
Yeah.
I've worked with some of the most reluctant salespeople, and I work with industries where we're not in sales,
Mm,
banks, law firms,
yep.
electrical companies,
Yep.
a whole range of different businesses. Well, we're not in sales. But they're very
Mm,
reluctant salespeople. I go, you're not in sales. You're a problem solver.
yeah.
Just figure out how to ask the right questions so you can figure out what the problems are. Listen more than you talk, and then be able to address those problems. And once somebody figures out that you built rapport with them, that you are the person that can solve their problems, well, then they'll give you money.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing, Janine. That is like, again, all these bits of pearls of wisdom are fantastic. I agree with you. And I think that on that note, a lot of people struggle with the money side as well. Like when they're selling, there's a lot of feelings of, we touched on it before, like imposter syndrome, or, not feeling maybe worthy of, that sale as well, or some type of fear. I know that was something that I struggled with as a business owner early on. I'd always do stuff for cheap because I was like, oh, like I wouldn't pay this. So I wouldn't expect people to be paying like full value. You know what I mean? Like I'm cheap. I'm a frugal person, and I know that about myself. So when it comes to people actually paying me, I'm like, I would be looking at how can I get this for the best price, the best possible price. So do you also help people with those things? Because I imagine that's a big part of sales as well. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, most definitely. If you can't make money, you may as well go and get a job.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
You have
True.
to be comfortable with that. And this is, as you said, that's where the imposter syndrome comes in a bit more. But it's, what is this product or service of value or worth to somebody else? What if you solve that problem for them? If say it's stress again, we'll work on that. If it's stress that you're solving, no, I'll work on things with my branding. I'll help
Yeah.
people, and everything I do comes under a branding umbrella, where it's
Totally.
you as the person that you're branding. If you aren't being seen and you don't know
Mm,
how to get in front of audiences, and you're making sales, well, then you may have invested a lot of money into setting up your business. That your sense of self-worth drops down even more because it's not happening. That the problem is, that you may have to go get a job, and that's
totally.
not what you want to do. So that's the real underlying problem that will keep you awake at night. If I don't make sales, then I'm going to have to get a job. Then addressing that, so what value would that be if somebody's talking to me? What value is it that you can build your
Yeah.
business to something that's really sustainable, and
Mm,
it's not just a little hobby on the side, that you can have you don't have to go back to a job. It means that you can be flexible hours for your children. You can participate in children activities. You can do all of that. What value is that?
Yeah,
And then figuring
absolutely.
out that costing from that point, the you know, I my husband does wood turning, and we're at a wood turning thing, and one of the men, my husband does beautiful work, but one of the men is
Very
just
cool.
what he creates is phenomenal. It blows your mind. And he doesn't sell anything, and he's now got to because he's just got too many things in his house. And he had this beautiful big vase thing that he did. And I said to him, you need to find a gallery and you need to ask at least $2,000 for it. And he's
Yep.
just got
Yeah.
wide-eyed and gone, oh, I couldn't, it wouldn't be worth 100. I said, you put 100 on it, you won't sell it.
Yeah.
You put $2,000 or $3,000 on it, it will be a collector's item and you will sell it.
Mm,
And the quality
yeah.
was there. So
Wow.
that's part of it as well, as ensuring what your service or product is, the quality is there for what
Definitely.
you're charging. I see this all the time with coaches that have really high prices, and then people come away and go, I can't see the value
Yeah.
in that. I didn't learn anything. And unfortunately, it sort of puts a sour taste. And you'd be finding it with
Definitely.
marketers as
Oh, for
well.
sure. For sure.
It's disappointing.
It is. Yeah.
It's but getting the right price for individuals is definitely, and
Absolutely.
also what are you buying and what are you spending? Like very much talking about the ROI, the return on investment. If you spend $10,000 with that coach, now I've spent 5 times that amount with one coach for a year. No, what was the return on investment for me to do that? It wasn't just something, this looks bright and shiny.
Yep.
It's what if I get this, and so the beauty of selling sales training or the branding training, if you get 3 more customers, that's going to pay for the training at least, and you've
Absolutely.
got that skill for the rest of your life that you can
Absolutely.
make more sales. So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. I definitely see that value in what you do, Janine. And I think that, I'm so grateful for your time today to kind of explain this to our
Oh,
audience
I've
as
loved
well.
it. I look, you can hear me. I know the more I talk, the more excited I get about it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
I can feel the energy here. It's really great. And I think that going back to the authenticity piece, I think a lot of it is if you're passionate about what you do, that shines like a light. And I definitely feel that from you. And I think that the world needs more people who can learn to share their voice because I think going back to what we were talking about in terms of, being able to help people, if you're hiding your light away, you're actually doing a disservice to the world. You're not helping people who could learn from you and could get your assistance, right? So if you frame it that way and change kind of the way that you look at it, being like, why would anybody want to listen to me? And I don't feel comfortable selling. It's like you're helping people and you're doing a disservice if you don't get your voice out there. So as a branding coach or as a branding consultant expert, being able to help people share their story, being able to speak, I think that's one of the most powerful things that people could get help with. And then it's getting online because this world, now we can reach billions of people for free with these amazing platforms that exist. So crafting your message is going to pay, it's almost an exponential world out there now that if you invest in yourself, you're now able to speak and reach those millions of and billions of people, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and that it's unlimited. And I love that you said, that shining light in the world. And I know I've got that in one of my books. And Marianne, I'm trying to think of the person that wrote the poem, and it's questioning how you dared not to be that light. That and I wish I could pull the words out, but it's exactly what you said. It's not it's your right, it's your responsibility. That's the
Yeah.
word. It's your
Yeah.
responsibility to be able to give out that information. And I have to tell you this, that I was very good at giving unsolicited information, and this is and it was like, people didn't want it, didn't pay attention to it, and I just went, right, I'll just do it for people who pay me.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Or
great. That's
obviously in
great.
this situation, where I get the opportunity to share as much as
Well,
possible.
absolutely. Yeah. That's why I started this podcast selfishly was to get all of these wonderful experts time for free. Just kidding.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same with my podcast. I've not been doing that now for 6, 7 years, and
Wow.
I've interviewed women from all around the world
Oh,
who
amazing.
have amazing information to offer. And
Yeah.
I had someone the other, no, I was traveling to, I might have told you the story, the traveling to Thargomindah. I was, I,
No, I
uh,
haven't heard the story.
I went, we did a big trip out to Birdsville. And for those that listening aren't in Australia, it is the center, really the center of the edge of Queensland. And it's a couple of
Oh,
thousand kilometers
I do
away. And
remember
there's,
this now.
yeah,
Yes.
and there's the Birdsville track. And there's all these tracks that are all dirt tracks still. There's a lot of dirt tracks in Australia if you want to go anywhere. And so we did that for a few months. One of the towns on the way, a town of 300 people,
Wow.
it's called Thargomindah. And by coincidence, I was at the tourist bureau using the internet, and the lady said, "Oh, help me with your phone," and was trying to set up to have a different carrier because nothing works here as well. And
Yeah.
and she looked at it and she said, "Oh, wearewomen@gmail.com." She said, "I listened to that podcast."
No way.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I've gone, "Oh, that's my podcast." And she's done this whole
Wow.
thing. She's done this fangirl thing.
Wow.
And she said, listening to that podcast has absolutely changed my life.
Wow.
I moved out of the situation. I've moved to this amazing town. I love my job. I love the people here. I
That's
now have the
amazing.
ability, confidence to do the things that are important for me and not listen to others. And as you were talking, I was in tears. She was in tears. And
Wow.
it really makes a difference. Hey, you don't know how far the ripples go. And I love talking
That's,
about that concept about what we can offer and what we can give, or
yeah.
what we put out there. If I train someone else, what they've got to say, how many people is that going to help and affect? And so you don't know where those
So
ripples
true.
go. And that was just amazing coincidence
Wow.
that it gave me that opportunity to hear from one of the listeners and how things had
All
changed.
right.
So yeah,
Janine, that's
it was amazing.
incredible. What a story. Like, I think we sometimes go through our own lives thinking that, what difference can we really make? But it could just be one person, that hears your story and is inspired to make a change in their lives as a result. And that's all that matters. If you're able to make the smallest difference, it's like the chaos theory, right? Like a butterfly's
Yeah.
flapping of wings could cause a hurricane on the other side of the world. So it's like you don't know how far those ripples go, and it's just important, I think, to let your light shine, to be authentic, to understand how to tell your story. And I think that today's really inspired me, at least, to make sure that we're getting this message out there so that other
Yeah.
people feel inspired to share theirs as well. If people are interested in working with you, how can they kind of reach out? Like, what would they be able to do in terms of your workshops? You got books. Is there anything that they could start with to kind of get that process going?
There's quite a few things. Looking behind me, there is one book called Good Girls Do Sell, and it's for women or smart men. That's not where that trust is.
Yeah. Or, yeah.
And
Exactly.
the other book is called Being Unstoppable. I would obviously recommend both of those. That little clear thing you can't see is the 2023 Logan City Business Award for Small Business to Business, which was
Oh,
very
very
exciting to
well done.
achieve that this year. Yes, it was a real honor. The
Amazing.
and all of the books and workshops and everything are on my website, janeenvosper.com. What I run a 12-week branding program, and in that program, I offer every one of my training courses as well as fortnightly small group coaching, and all of that's under that one umbrella. So basically, all of those workshops are free. You're
Wow.
paying just for the coaching, the fortnightly coaching, and then you receive all of those workshops, and you can attend all of
Amazing.
those over a 6-month period. Yes, it's. I again, I'm in a situation where I want to be able to give as much as I can, and
Yeah.
that gives that opportunity. It's affordable for people who want to really improve their brand and get a whole lot of skills without spending tens of thousands of dollars
That's
doing so.
amazing. Yeah. And
And
it's
the
and
next
it's
one
such
starts on the
massive.
12th of January, so I'm not sure when
Oh,
this is
perfect.
going to go out, but it
Yep.
starts
Yep.
on the
Well, I might have
12th
to. I
of
might have
January.
to push up the queue now, Janine. You've got straight in the front of the queue now.
Excellent,
No,
excellent.
that's That's great.
But the workshops are available all the time. There's a ton of information up on my website, and please reach out on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn trainer. I love to
Perfect.
connect with as many people as possible. I'd love for you to connect. If you listen to this, I would love your feedback. And if you really love and love what you've heard, please give me go to my business page. You give me a 5-star review, and
Nice.
just go what was your biggest takeaway. I'd love to hear that as
That's
well.
perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would recommend anyone who's looking to take that next step. Maybe you're sitting on the fence, you're not quite sure, whether you should be the type of person who goes out there and puts themselves out there, does public speaking, but you felt the calling, right? You felt that feather, let's say. I would say that you do want to find somebody who can help you do that, because having a coach, having a mentor, having guidance is going to help you in that process so much faster and so much easier than trying to do it yourself or sitting on the fence for another couple of months, couple of years, however long. And I do encourage, that everyone should be feeling comfortable in sharing their story, because it is such a powerful tool to have in your arsenal. So, Janine, thank you so much for coming onto the show
Thank you.
today and for your time. I did want to do some quick, maybe rapid fire questions before we wrapped up, just to
Okay.
share some
All right.
extra
I
pearls
just
of
wanted to
wisdom.
say there's a complimentary strategy call when you go to the website, 30 minutes, and
Oh,
we'll have a
perfect.
chat about what you can do. And if I'm not the best person for you, I'll recommend somebody else. Quite happy to do that as well.
Excellent. I think that's a huge part of sales, is understanding if you're the right fit for people, right? Because we can
Yeah.
help solve your problem, but maybe you're not quite right at that step of the journey. And being able to, be wise enough to point them in another direction, I think is, that takes a bit of wisdom, I guess. Not everybody does it, that's for sure. Well, Janine, okay, so I have 3 questions I've been asking everyone on the show, just to see, how you kind of can share some extra wisdom for our business listeners. The first question is all about what you do in terms of routine or some type of ritual, I guess, to look after yourself as a business owner. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Definitely. I wake early, and
Okay.
it's usually around 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 5:30 is my wake time.
Such a
I
Queenslander.
Yeah, I know. Especially in summer, it's daylight, but
Yeah.
early. With that, I will then either go for a 30-minute walk, or I will do stretches, or both, one of those things. I'm a very big believer in alternative sort of health practices, so I'll take naturopathic type of things, and that's part of my day routine. And
Perfect.
I will then jump on and do some work, because often I'm head out of here at 7 a.m. and I've already done at least 1 or 2 hours work.
Wow.
And
So productive.
I function well in the mornings.
Yeah.
I know, and see, this is a beauty of and being organized, is you get things done that you've got to get done and not procrastinate.
Yeah.
Then it means when a friend rings and say, "Hey, we're going out for coffee. Do you want to come?" Sure, no problem.
Yep. Yep. You've
Because
done you've done the you've eaten the frog already for the day, so to speak.
absolutely, yeah, the best book out, if anyone
Oh,
hasn't read that, is Eat the Frog. Yeah.
it is a good one,
So
actually.
that's is an early start helps.
Very nice, very nice. You kind of answered my next question, to be honest, Janine, as well. But what would be, when you're trying to get stuff done, what would be your best productivity hack? And maybe I might have jumped the gun there.
I set a time to do it. I'll banking, accounting, all of those
Mm.
sort of things are my least favorite things to do.
Yeah,
And
me
if you
too.
ask my bookkeeper, she just pulls her hair out when I do things wrong regularly. And that I will go, right, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
or any sort of task. I will put a time on it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make sure I get this done for the next hour, but I won't go and have lunch until that is done.
Yeah, that's
So that,
awesome. That's a great
yeah.
technique. Yeah. Awesome, Janine. I guess the last question would be just more around, because me being a geek and all, is there any tools in your business that you can't live without? Any applications, software, apps on your phone, something that you're just like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread.
Well, I did mention LinkedIn as well, the social media apps, of course, and
Yep.
Facebook and Insta, and that they tend to be losing a lot of
Mm,
momentum. I find
yeah.
it anyway.
Yeah, me too.
I use Aweber, which is uh, an email processing software, and I've used that for quite a long time. And because I'm not the geek, if I find something that works well and
Yeah.
it's affordable, I'll stick with it. And
Yes.
if I can do it, I'll stick with it. I don't tend to change. So that's one that I definitely do. I have to admit I am using AI a lot more with chat
Yeah.
just to give me, 10 titles for a blog or something like that. And I did that with my clients this morning. She said, I don't know what to talk about. So I typed in a whole lot of data and then produced 20 headings for blogs for her. So yes,
It's awesome,
definitely
isn't it?
using chat. I use Eventbrite, but I focus on Humanitics, which is an Australian company.
Yep. Yep.
And they their fees aren't quite as high, and they also have a percentage of their fees goes to a certain charity. And just had feedback that $1 million went to a charity, but they're also
Wow.
Australian. So
Yeah.
that's
Humanitics, they're a social enterprise too, I think. Are they not?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Really cool. Oh,
And
great,
if I
great.
can,
Oh,
if I can
sorry.
do that, then I tend to. Yeah, and of course I have a YouTube channel, so I can't live without Google.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Janine. That was it for the rapid fire questions. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure talking to you today and really appreciate your time. For everyone listening, please do go and check out her website, check her out on social media, and add her on LinkedIn. She, would love to hear from you. So, any final comments, Janine, before we wrap up the show?
No, I just, again, loved the opportunity to share. And I know there's been a lot of topics that we've covered, even if
Oh,
people just take something away but apply it. Nothing, information is of no value whatsoever if you don't go and apply something. So that would be,
very
and
true.
I've
Oh,
loved the conversation. Thank you, Kyle. The
no,
opportunity was great.
thank you so much, Janine. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll, hopefully have you back on the show soon. I can't believe it's already been an hour. That's, I think that flew by. So thank you everyone. And take care.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of Business Owners Unite. Thank you for spending this time with us and being a part of our growing community of entrepreneurs. If you liked what you heard, please show your support by subscribing and leaving a review on your platform of choice. Your feedback helps us grow and continue to bring you valuable content. Remember, your business journey is unique, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories in our upcoming episodes.